our first guest, Abby Barr, joined us. All right, folks, the doors are open. As always, we're just getting comfortable here and settling in while we assemble a quorum, which hopefully will happen soon, and then I will formally gavel this meeting to order. Um, we can consider the important matters on the table. We have some big topics to get through today, uh, so hope you're all prepared to do some work here. This is a working lunch.
Have we approved the minutes from the last meeting?
We should do that.
Okay.
But the sergeant at arms unfortunately called in sick today and
Um,
said he has some pain in his side. He said try to get here with the minutes later, but start without him. All right, we have a quorum. Very very quickly. So well, I can only attribute that to the power of Claire Zulkey's draw and your influencer. Let me call this meeting to order. Introduce my first guest, someone I have known for many years, but maybe never been in a room with.
one time.
Um, yes, at one time when you left the farmland and came to join us, we coastal elites here. I'm referring, of course, to Claire Zulkey, uh, artist, writer, literati, and for the last how many years has this been now? Uh,
Substack wise,
yeah,
I think 2019, 2018, slightly
wait,
pre-pandemic.
wait. So that adds up to a number of years by now. I can't
Yes.
I can't do that big math, but quite a few years. Been the author and curator of the Evil Witches Substack. What do you call it? A newsletter? This is a people in the new parlance. People are just saying my Substack, which
Yeah, I guess
doesn't.
so. Which would not exist, or at least it wouldn't be as old as it was if not for you directly encouraging me to sign up for Substack specifically. So that truly would not happen without Richard here. So
How do
I
you like that?
I kind of like it.
I will accept that credit. It's all thanks to me. But you, I got you in the door, but you built up something really powerful and incredible, and we will be speaking about that. Um, all of our guests here, our fellow lunchers, please give us your comments, your questions. Claire has been warned that she is going to be hit with some hard hitting questions, so don't hold back. Let her have it. Um, and let's start at the top here, and hopefully we can get through this list quickly and get everyone back to their business time. So, uh, evil witches. Tell me about it. What are the witches? Why are you witches?
So it started off as a Facebook group because I wanted, as I called it, a place to complain about my kids and my husband, which sounds pretty basic, but pre these spaces online, you would, maybe talk about motherhood in a place that we would call Gen Pop, which might be people who might not understand where you're coming from and may think that you mean it when you say I hate my kids or I wish my husband would die, when you really mean like I just feel that way right now. And I remember reading like a
So
lot of parents.
you don't not mean it. You just don't mean it forever.
Yeah, occasionally mean it. Like the way I cussed my son out to his face last night, and then I felt terrible about it, and we apologized to each other. Like you just need people who can align these moments of exaggeration, of frustration, and can laugh with you. And also, we can skip over some conversations that I think have been established, like whether it's selfish to be a working mom, for instance, or whether it's selfish to take a vacation without your family, things like that. So it turned into a lot of people had recommended that I maybe try a newsletter, and I started on Wix for free. And Richard suggested I try Substack because some folks had told me like there's a community for this, there's a thirst for this. So I kind of took my parenting freelance career off the traditional media because I was pitching magazines and newspapers, and then Substack is kind of the repository for that these days.
So the way I describe it is as the internet is built up and the blogosphere and then we're on the other thing, there's an entire ecosystem world of people giving advice to mothers, to pregnant women, to all these things, and most of it seems targeted to make women feel like they're not doing enough, that you should be doing, and I would describe the evil witches as telling the entire advisosphere to go F itself, and
Yeah, I mean, more or less. Like, I mean, to be clear, I think there's a baseline. Like, we all are really good parents. You know, we all are human. We have our lapses. We do tell our kids the F word to their face once in a while, only if they deserve it. But I think that we don't need to explore whether it's like that crazy for a mom to make a mistake, you know. But and I think a lot of us in real life are extremely caring of each other's kids and really enjoy each other's kids in real life. But you know, you need this valve to talk shit or explore questions or explore the other side, and you know, some topics that don't get covered. That's our motto is we are people who happen to be who happen to be mothers. So we explore a lot of things like careers, about, you know, health, things like, you know, being poly and a parent, about taking hallucinogen, not while you're parenting, but, you know, maybe while your kids are gone for the weekend, things like that. Stuff that you won't necessarily see in a parenting magazine that's more about like how to make a fun Halloween treat for your kid's school party, something like that. So
so you're talking about how to time the hallucinogens so they'll wear off right when the right as the play date ends. So
yeah, you need to have the epiphany, or you need to achieve ego death, you know, sometime before bedtime, but you know, not too close.
We have a message here from first of all, I'm sorry, Claire, we're gonna have a technical interruption here. I think we're getting a little feedback from your AirPods. Is it
Oh,
possible
okay.
for you to
Yes.
this is live video, folks. You get to see what happens behind the scenes there. Okay, so
Can you
speak
hear me
now.
now? I have the air conditioning on, so I don't know if that's part of
Okay,
it. Like,
that's
is this better?
that's perfect. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so that's how it really works in the live video field, people. This is modern media. Get used to it. We have a comment here from our own Katie Rich of the Ankler here. She said, "I think the Evil Witch's dispatch that spoke to me the most was when Claire asked the group whose job it was to deal with the random plastic bottle of sand the child had brought home from the beach." I had that marked off to talk for conversation. We think alike, Katie Rich.
My
These
one
are
and
the
only poll so far.
yeah. That was that. Oh, my cousin Stuart, who is a sound engineer for NPR, says your audio sounds fine right now. So
Okay.
so thank you, cousin Stuart. Um, the the I had marked it up because that was ingenious. It was kind of a you showed you showed a picture of a apple juice bottle filled with sand, sort of sitting on on a table that you described as next to the door, and
Mm-hmm.
then you had a multi-part question of what should be done with this and how should this be handled. Can you describe the questions you put out there and what sparked that important debate?
Yes. Well, this bottle of sand, which my son had brought home from the beach, had been sitting by the front door for several days. And, you know, it just, when you're a parent, maybe you don't have to be a parent to, you know, I don't want to brag about the glory of being a parent, but, you know, there's all these little kind of questions that pop up. Like, you know, I could just throw away this garbage, but it's not really fair for me to do it because this had nothing to do with me. So ergo, who should be throwing it away? And the second question is, this is a recyclable filled with sand. How do you properly dispose of it? Do you rinse it out? Do you just say, fuck it? Can I somewhere on this? Is that okay? Just throw it away. You know, and when should this happen? Should this be job one right now? And if not, how long do we let this stick around for? And I was doing it as a gag because there's a lot of ways that my Substack has benefited me, and it's not always, you know, measured in reader count and subscriber count or conversions. But one of them is that I am a managing editor for a company called Inbox Collective. Dan Oshinsky runs it, and he counsels newsletter operators on how to get the best out of their publication. And so it is best practice, according to him, to survey your readers and poll them. And I have Still never figured out what questions I would want to ask my readers that would require them to put in the time to put in a survey and then to take back the information and make my newsletter better. So looking at this garbage by the front door, it just kind of, that's how it came to me. I was like, let's just turn this into a joke, and I will use this system in a way that makes no sense to me. And I'm proud to say, you know what happened is the mainframe got broken because my husband got sick of looking at it, but instead of putting it in the garbage, he just put it outside by the mailbox. So I didn't see that permutation ahead of time, but that
Was it? Are you planning a sequel for what should happen to it now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be something that comes up. My dad, for instance, yesterday decided that it was the day to get rid of a children's stool that was in their house, and he left it by our front door. And so thinking about that and how long that was going to be there and what we do with that. And by the way, if anyone out there needs a children's stool that is customized with a little puzzle on it that says Paul, if you know a child named Paul, or even if you don't, if you just like the name, let me know because I have a free stool for you. But now I have to figure out what to do with this stool. Maybe I can give it to my son in 30 years or so and make it his problem. Like, the possibilities are endless.
But I think what you got at there with the apple juice bottle poll is how in parenting, sort of every little decision and every little thing that happens becomes so fraught, and questions of guilt and also wanting to teach your children, and resentment over whose turn it is. And it's kind of like in parenting, you go through that like 100 times a day,
Yeah.
you end up collectively, if you don't have the tools for dealing with it. We should all just have put these things out on polls.
Yeah, I did a choose your own adventure once about just when you come into the house and you look at all the things that need to be done that you don't want to do, but somebody needs to do it, and you have other things to do, and you could nag everyone in your family to do it, but it's like nobody likes that. Nobody likes hearing your voice sound like that. Nobody's listening to you. So then you're like, I guess I'm just choosing to live in filth, and I'll get back to work for now. And then you confront it all over again later. It's so boring and also funny if you think of it the right way, and enraging, like you said. So these are the things I do when I'm not getting my work done.
Why is it so hard parenting? Why is it such a? I mean, they they say it takes a village, but I mean, it takes like a couple villages per child, I think, to like just get a child to summer camp for the day.
Yeah. It'd be so much easier. Like, I wish we kind of lived. I don't know if these days ever actually did exist, but like my kingdom for someone who gets the children ready without me noticing, and then they bring them to me to greet them in the morning, and then I
Well,
wave
that's
them off.
on Downton Abbey. They when they're all the adults are having dinner, they bring them in and they kiss them goodnight and say, "Okay, go off with Daddy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go
Night
sleep
night.
well."
And it is an ego. I mean, I joked about ego death, but it like kind of is ego death. Like, if you are someone who spends your life chasing your ambition and trying to achieve your goals, and then your kids are born and they don't give a shit. And you could try to spend your life being online with social media, showing how beautiful your children are and how happy they are. Of course, if you are really good at social media, you wouldn't show their face. You would have like an artistic way of like, kind of showing like a third of their face for privacy's sake, because you're a better parent than me. But I choose to, like, it's more fun to just, I think it really helped me with any issues of competition with other moms. Like, if you can just all be honest about how we're all struggling, like, then you don't really compare yourself to other people, because you think like everyone else has these same exact laundry issues, or the back of their car is smells like French fries for the last 2 weeks, or
What they
you
say in the AA, don't judge your insides compared to other people's outsides. Is what.
yeah, yeah, something like that. But and then, of course, you end up reading something online that'll piss you off, that'll make you question your judgment. Like, I haven't had something lately, but let's say like, ADHD, like the thought that there's too many kids on ADHD medication and we're over medicating them. And then you're like, well, then you live with my ADHD kid unmedicated, and you get back to me after about 20 minutes or so and let me know how you feel about that.
I want to talk about another very funny post you had that it was very funny, but raises important issues, and will get us into the big topic that I want to talk about here. You chronicled the evening where you in the shower your child had written what in the steam on the glass door to the shower.
Yes, he had written, "You're the fucking baby here," because my husband had told him he had been. My son likes to. I don't know about how your kids are, but at bedtime he kind of likes to goof around and there's like a falling down on the ground for no reason, or like a lot of attention to the dog suddenly when there was no attention paid before.
I will confirm bedtime is fraught.
It is trying. So my husband, not his best judgment, told my son he was behaving like a baby. And I went to, and I had just taken the kids to see some movie. Oh, the Minecraft movie, my favorite of all this, ancient texts, Minecraft. And taking them out for dinner with their friends. So get in the shower, go get my kid out of the shower, and he had written in steam on the glass door, "You're the fucking baby here." Towards my husband.
And he is how old?
He was 9. He's 10 now.
Yeah.
And we're not like a cussing family, but I also am completely lying because we are a cussing family. We just like to think that we're not, and we like kind of don't even try that hard not to show the kids shows. Like one of my favorite shows to watch is RuPaul's Drag Race, and one of their catchphrases is "Don't fuck it up." So it was completely hypocritical of me to be so upset with my kid for cussing, but just after giving him so much and doing so much, and then seeing your little child, who can be very sweet, to talk like that was shocking to me. And something I sometimes work through was like, I was a very good child, as far as I remember, a very obedient girl who did what she was supposed to do. And so it's very
humble. This is not so the karma. You have no bad karma by that.
No, and I mean, by the way, my parents also are very disobedient, which is really upsetting. I don't know why I was, they are not good old people. They do whatever they want, regardless of what I think would be good for them. So, so it was a coming into terms with like, maybe my kid is bad and I did that, and it was in my face, it was in black and white. And it kind of took me like a process, like a day, honestly, of sort of getting over it. We talked about canceling his birthday. We talked about canceling Screentime for the next quarter, and
which of course is a punishment for you as well when Screentime is canceled, because
yeah, yes,
you have the job of entertaining them will no longer fall to the iPad, but
exactly. Yeah, I mean that's always the double-edged sword, is like the Screentime is fun for the parents, and that they are it's like nap time, only only they're awake. And and then after an hour, I mean, this is very typical, and this is part of what Evil Witches is like. We could kind of start laughing, like my husband and I agreed, like, he can be a fucking baby here, actually. So it was sort of not incorrect. And we were like, he wrote it backwards in the shower because I read it front. Yeah. So we ended up being like, you know what? Like, it wasn't great, but, there was some impressive acts in there. And so, not our favorite, message to receive from our child, but it was a lesson. And as always, I'm eternally humbled. I don't appreciate being humbled, but it's always happening to me every day, and probably to the good at some point. We'll find out how eventually, I presume.
Yes, says Joby Lynn. That's talent, says my cousin Stuart. So, which I agree. I was very impressed. But it brings us into one of the big topics I had on the agenda today, the approved agenda, which is the media use in children, and what they see, how it poisons their minds. We're all we were poisoned when we were children by media, but now they are poisoned by sort of the quantity of media, not the quality as much, but the quantity of media. So how keep how much screen time to give your kids, how to limit it, how to rein it in, and what effect it has on them is kind of the big topic that every parent goes through these days. How do you navigate that, and what are you seeing out there with the monsters that we're raising?
Well, as much as I complain about my younger son who has ADHD, like one of the weird side effects with his ADHD is that when you take him off screens, he can be such a huge asshole because, and I've learned now it's not a weakness. First of all, I had to get over the idea that it was like a weakness of character. And then I ended up talking to Sarah Wheeler. She is the mom spreading Substack, but she knows ADHD, and she was talking about how kids with ADHD, screen time, it activates the dopamine in their brain, right? And it's a world that they are appreciated in, and nobody is yelling at them or telling them to, do stuff. So to rip it away from them is very jarring, especially if you're going to be doing something that's not very satisfying to them, like eating dinner with your stupid family. So, so by just yeah, so by default, we I think do a little bit less screen time than some families, just because it's simply not worth it for us to be constantly emotionally abused.
So what are your parameters?
So the older one has a laptop with Messenger on it. He does not have a phone. He's the only rising eighth grader in the entire world who doesn't have a phone. You guys probably heard about it on the news. But and then they can't do screen time until after they've like done their summer work or practiced the guitar, maybe done some laundry, and then they get maybe 2 hours. But we reserve the right to take it away, usually for the younger child if he's being a dick, because it's not necessarily that it's a punishment for being a dick, but we just sort of say like, why would we give you something that makes you even more of a dick? So phone will probably come for the older one and once he goes to high school. And I'm very sad about thinking about that. Do your kids have phones yet?
Yeah, my son had a phone from when he went into junior high school, which we switched in schools, and junior high school started a year earlier. So he said, "Aha, you remember that promise you made when I was in kindergarten."
Yeah.
But it is a constant, it is French warfare.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, my older one, I'm sure like if there's any upside, I think he has a little bit of objectivity that he can kind of spot trends without necessarily being, I mean, I'm sure he's a part of them, but like we noticed, for instance, there is a subset of Instagram videos of boys, dorky looking boys getting cool haircuts, and they get this makeover where these guys, they often end up with earrings and chains, something that you would probably never encounter if you don't have kids. And I showed one to my son, and I was joking. I was like, I like this boy better when he had the dorky haircut before he was cool. And my kid noticed. He's like, all these videos are the same. They have the same script. They follow the same. They have the same music. They always look the same. And I just thought that was interesting that he could like spot the trends. And he also was talking about, remember when TikTok was, when TikTok was taken offline for about 8 hours before President Trump rescued us. All of his friends were crying about, what they're going to do without TikTok and how scared they were. And he told me, like, these kids are all crashing out. This is before the phrase crashing out happened. I assume crashing out is already over. But, but again, I don't want to be too complimentary toward him because he will be joining them soon. And I'm sure he'll be late to the game. And my nightmare is always about him getting hit by a car, actually like crossing the street while looking at a phone. But we'll figure that out in the meantime. So, yeah. And then in the meantime, I try to have my husband look at his texts every now and then. Not me, because I think I have a lower tolerance for dogs.
That's good advice for moms out there.
Yeah. That's one reason to be married to a man, is that you can have a guy around the house. I don't have to be married for that. You can have just like a long-term relationship. But yeah,
because when they get into teenagedom, if mom were to see the conversations of teenage boys, I think you would just like turn to stone right there.
Yeah. Yeah, just in the last couple of weeks, we talked about the definitions of the word cum and slut. He asked me, or they came up naturally, and I kind of wanted to know where he heard about these things, but I was like, I don't want to know, and what's the point? It's like when you get COVID and you're like, where did it come from? Like, forget about it. There's no point in tracking it down.
Oh, the places you'll go.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you hear from, I'm sure you hear in your readership people say, you know what, I gave up. I've told them they can have 30 hours a day of screen time, and they have 9 screens going at the same time. All the what do you tell them when you hear that?
I mean, I don't say anything because, like, but by the grace of God go us. Like, we've all had, had sick days. We've all had disasters and emergencies. Like, you can't judge because that could be you. And honestly, I mean, some kids react well to it and are incredibly responsible. And yeah, there's not a ton of things that I am super judgmental about. I might be a little bit about. I think when parents encourage their kids to act too much like adults and they actively encourage that, I'm like, well, that's sort of a bummer. But we've all been there, and there's some people who think. And who will tell you that if your kids are not on screens or don't have a phone, that you are actually holding them back and that you are, making them socially ostracized. And I guess I can't worry about that. I was raised to be a nerd, and look where it's gotten me now. Now, I'm live substacking with Richard Rushfield. If I'd had cable like a cool kid earlier on, I probably wouldn't be here.
You would have invented Facebook, and we'd all be working for you. The what how, so how what do you see with the kids today? This is what strikes me: their ability to interact with each other and their ability to interact with adults in the world, and sort of that I have seen young people that my children are friends with that just like sort of the moment that they're out of a classroom or something like that, they have to be staring at a screen, and they really, and not to throw stones, but they don't seem able to have conversations, which are also like, well, were kids ever able to have conversations or talk to adults, and they should hate talking to adults. It's a terrible. I hated talking to adults until I was in my 30s, I think.
Till right this
Um,
second.
yeah, I still hate it. Except for you. You're the only adult I'll talk to. The But how do you evaluate that? And how do you that?
Well, it's kind of. I mean, for me, I can only speak to me and my own kids, and my kids are, aside from my kid who has ADHD, they are neurotypical, so that is a huge, a big part of it to begin with, because not every kid is, so you can't, expect the same from every child. But I guess I just seen in the world so many men walking around who don't say please or thank you when they're doing an exchange with someone, who are just rude people. And maybe because I'm the only girl in the house, or I'm a feminist, or I just hate rude people. But like from the jump, I was like, you need to say please and thank you, and you need to make eye contact. And we didn't do screens at restaurants, only in maybe like worst case scenarios where, like, say my parents were like really dragging out a dinner and, ordering extra drinks, and you're like, okay, I can only do so much. Like, here's the phone. But so we practice a lot. We practice a lot of engaging. Like, just last week we were at as like a solstice festival in our town, and my kid had a question about what the EMTs were doing there. They were rescuing someone whose boat had capsized, and I was like, go talk to him yourself, go ask him. And he didn't want to, and I was like, well, I'm not going to ask him because I don't care, like, which is not true. I did care what happened. But just trying to do a lot of engagement like that, because it is so, I mean, for adults too, like for all of us, it is easy to avoid having conversations like that. I think one thing that's been good for me is that I run now. Another, like, good aspect of the Substack is that I'm editing a newsletter for our local town now. The Evanston Roundtable as a parenting newsletter. So I have a little like break off kind of, and so I have to go around town now and talk to people and learn about my city, which, on the one hand, you don't always feel like that, but it is good for you. And I think hopefully it'll be good for them in the future. Although maybe, again, they are just losing out on opportunities to learn how to use AI the way that it was meant to be used. And I'm holding them back with my stupid rules and manners and things like that.
When you're out there in the parenting world, talking to other parents at the schools and all that, I imagine there's people that you say, oh, you should read my newsletter, and there's people that you definitely don't want them to find out about your newsletter at all. How would you
Yeah.
describe that divide?
Well, it's been interesting because like we switched schools as well a couple of years ago, and that was an interesting process because you in your head you're like, I'm going to be with these folks my kids' entire lives. Like maybe our kids will. You get your head goes into crazy places when your kids are little kids of somebody, and you start thinking like maybe they'll get married someday or they'll be in high school together. And we moved situations. We moved to schools across town. School has a slightly different culture, and you learn like some people don't want to make jokes about the same things you do or complain about the same things you do. Like we had the kids' school is Catholic, and they had this big to do for this May crowning ceremony, and it was a big deal. And they had to be there early, and school also ended early, and they had to dress up. And I was complaining about how much work we had to do, and someone said, "No, it's my favorite part of the year. It's my favorite thing. I look forward to it all year." And you're like, "Well, shit." Like now I feel like an asshole. So we just talk about it being witchy. If someone's not witchy, it usually means they can't joke about things that are pretty, you can't complain, or make inappropriate jokes. Like the things my really good friends and I joke about with regards to our husbands and kids, and can be to a certain person maybe shocking or, really inappropriate. So, but you just suss it out. You figure out who laughs at what, who seems to be into the same stuff. But people who take it really seriously, like, and say things like, motherhood is the most important job of all, or who would take it really seriously if you made a joke about a child being in danger or something like that. I know they're not for me, but I actually really I don't promote the newsletter very much. I just really want it to be opt-in, because, yeah, it's really not for everyone, and I don't want to presume that it is.
Let's talk about let's say you have you tip me off to and I think we can break this news here. Your next issue is going to be about pediatrician moms and
Yeah,
people are already moms and then they became pediatricians,
other
which
way around. They were pediatricians first.
then they became, which somehow did not turn them off on motherhood. And they
No, yeah. Well, I figured I was like, you must get a completely different perspective after you become a mom, or a parent of any kind or a caretaker. But there's these milestones and best practices, which is all great. And we've all had. I think this is most pressing when we have babies, right? Because we've all, those of us who are parents, we've all had babies. We've all seen babies. We all kind of know what babies are about: crying, diapers, sleeping, cuddles. And then you have one, and like, despite everything that you are completely starting from scratch and you don't know anything. And the baby doesn't know how to be a human, which is incredibly inconvenient. And you don't know how to be a parent. So anyway, so it was interesting to talk to some of these other parents. Dr. Devika Bhushan, she has a Substack. She's one of the folks I talked to. She talked about how when her kid had his first sleep regression, how personally she took that. And I completely identified with that, because you're like, I thought you were on track. I thought you were, doing what you're supposed to do. And now you are defying me, you 3-month-old. And then there's another woman who talked about breastfeeding and how, differently she takes that lately, or she approaches that, or sleep training even. And then another woman I spoke with talked about encountering parents who are vaccine avoidant with their kids and what that is like to deal with. So, yeah, my concern, because I don't know about you, Richard, maybe you've evolved past that, but I'm always thinking about who might have a critique about my newsletter, and I'm like slightly concerned that someone might say that I'm implying that you can't be a pediatrician if you don't have kids, which is not at all what I'm saying. But but I was thinking about like whether it's like, could you have a dietitian who's thin? Like, do you trust that person necessarily? But I don't. But anyway, that's just 3 examples, and I think it's it just popped into my head, and it's not necessarily witchy, but I just think it's interesting to get that perspective change, because the best practices and your kid are not necessarily, traveling on the same road.
I would say it occurs to me the most traumatic moment of my life that was repeated twice. I've been through a lot in my life, ups and downs, and I've been to war almost. Not, I mean, near war, but riots, earthquakes, everything else. Uh, when each of my kids, when they stopped napping, when they gave up the nap, I have never felt such horror.
The betrayal.
Uh, that this was I got 90 minutes a day to just to just have peace, that it was being ripped away from me.
Yeah.
I still resent them for that.
Yes, I agree. And when they stay up late, you're like, but I liked it when you were going to bed at 7 o'clock because then I had, a nice 2 hours to myself or whatnot. Like, like one thing I think about is like my house would be in my head, I'm a clean person. But in reality, I'm not. And, I honestly fantasize sometimes about stopping working so I could only live in a clean home all the time. But, I have not done the math yet. I mean, is there anything that you and Nicole, like you thought that, I don't know if that you thought you would do something one way as a family and then you realize like your kids have another plan or, the state of California?
I mean, any kind of organization or we were going to go to museums and we were going to, teach teach them to love classical music, and they were gonna they were gonna and they were gonna volunteer every evening at the local homeless shelter. We're gonna, all these things that you just if there were 100 hours in the day, you'd crack that list a little more. But
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, even bedtime, like reading to my kids. I'm a writer and I grew up on books and I wouldn't be doing what I did if I didn't read. And do you know how tired I am? And I'm not in the mood to read like Judy Moody or whatever Stick Dog at night. Like I wish I could skip it. And I'm trying to make it as fast as I can. And I'm like, my mom didn't do that. She tried to read my brother and me David Copperfield when we were little kids. Like, and, no. And I like, so yeah, sorry world.
it does make you appreciate, to bring this back to Hollywood. I see every animated movie and TV show. I'm probably moving out of that. My youngest is 11 now, but today, so the ones that are made with like sort of care and imagination and everything, you're just like so grateful for those that like.
Yeah. Yeah, we watched, Flow, and I was like, that was such a nice experience, this movie with no dialogue, and it's just about a cat and a flood, and I was, like, very grateful that I was like, "This is not I don't have to think very much about this," and also it's a good movie at the same time. But now my older one, he was just invited to see, The Weekend a couple weeks ago at Soldier Field because another thing, and I'm sure you've encountered this, is that your kid may have friends the same age as them, but that other kid may be culturally 5, 10 years older than them because they have older siblings or more pop culture. So to me, my kid was too much of a little baby to go see a weekend show, but this other mom did not think so. And so there's a little bit of clash over that. We are going to see Weird Al Yankovic this weekend, which I hope is
Oh well, that is important education
yeah, I agree. Yes,
for all everyone should be. Did you hear Dr. Demento's retiring?
I did. I did.
Yeah, that's a big that I never quite managed to get my kids to become listeners, but uh, possibly the most influential voice in my childhood was Dr. Demento. Um, so I want to get into, before we wrap up here, we get to the parenting topic is kind of endless. And by the way, everybody here, just type your questions at the bottom. Claire is prepared for them; she can handle them.
They don't have to be
Or
about kids. They can be about anything.
comments. If you think she should be burned at the stake, let us know. You just to clarify, you're not actually, have you ever practiced actual witchcraft? Have you turned to actual witchcraft?
A little bit of tarot maybe here. Not really. I respect actual witches. Like I don't want to be an imposter. But I appreciate that. It was just I named it without any thought, just because I was like, we're not nice. I'm just being a mean old bitch, and that I think that was. Evil witch was just like a slight upgrade, grammatically from mean bitch. So, my kids do know what evil witches is, and my son actually wrote an issue for us. But he once said, "I'm going to start my own group, and we're going to be called the Vampires. It's going to be boys only." And I was like,
Very
"Great."
That's great. I'm not believe in witchcraft, but I wrote an article about witches once, and I said to the head of the coven, just teach me one spell, just give me one, and she taught me a lost things spell, which
Mm,
is very simple and has been like astoundingly effective over the years.
really? See,
Like, what?
I am Catholic, and I think there are some witchy aspects to Catholicism, but we just call it. But like everything with the saints, and burying statues upside down in the yard and things like that. Like we love doing creepy shit. So
Yeah.
it's not that,
So
just slightly different hats.
you've got a foot in that. Have you ever seen a ghost?
No, I believe other people's ghost stories, but I have not seen one. I'm not interested in it. I don't believe in it, but I do not want to find out for myself.
Okay. Uh, you don't want to see them. Anyway, Katie Rich has another question here. She says, okay, on the Weird Al topic, I've been thinking about how to introduce my kids culture that I consider cool without making them assume it's the exact opposite. That's an excellent point. You've got to sneak into them. Do moms stand a chance in this matter?
Yeah. Well, in my case, if you do keep media kind of sparing from kids, they are so thirsty for anything you show them that odds are they will probably just be there. Because remember, there's like some saying like, "Was it great or were you 8?" So they are 8, and so there are like some things that I've watched with them. I was delighted and surprised that they enjoyed. Like Clueless was so fun to rewatch with my boys, and an interesting rewatch because I remember when it came out, it seemed so over the top that all these kids had phones, and now you're like that was telling the future, like that was real. But Legally Blonde was another one where my older son was kind of hating on it in a insincere way, but then at the very end when she wins the case, spoiler alert, sorry everyone, he went like yes. And so I knew, so they know, I mean, you just can't take it too personally. It's also funny, I talked about this before, they're kind of wimps sometimes, and we showed them Sister Act, and they thought it was a scary movie at first because it starts off with an execution, and we had to coax them back in the room. So you just can't get your hopes up too high. You can't say, like, I mean, there have been movies, like we tried to watch Steel Magnolias and something happened and they walked away. And I was like, that one's more for me, honestly. That's not a kid movie. I know that,
I would tell you, I can tell you that.
But they watched
Kids,
The Devil Wears Prada with me recently. And I was like, that's not really a kid movie in any way. Like again,
you're
they're just there, and they liked it. And Meryl Streep is witchy, and Anne
when
Hathaway
you have
is.
someone being mean, that's fun for kids to watch.
Yeah, and Emily Blunt is like, I always forget that she's the best part of that movie. And then also, we watched Austin Powers too, and you're like, that one didn't age that great, but we were also out of like the Mike Myers verse, when everything he does is awesome. So, I think keep your expectations low. Think of it as not hoping that you're going to pass on something to them that they enjoy, but maybe hope that they will. And maybe even better yet, it's like you appreciate something. Like we watched the Blues Brothers with them again recently, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
I was
that's
like, this may not
a great
age
Chicago.
well.
When you live in Chicago, you don't like are you not fed the Blues Brothers like at age 3 or?
Oh, you are, but the Blues Brothers is such like the humor of it is not kid funny necessarily. And like I had to kind of point out, like with Carrie Fisher, she keeps coming with a machine gun and a flamethrower and stuff. And they were like, why is she like that? And I said, didn't you notice that Jake Blues is not scared at all? Like he doesn't react at all. And they were like, oh yeah. And I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, that movie is so of its time. I think a lot of
That
movies like Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, you never know. It might be of its era a little bit too much, but they did enjoy Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers holds up very well. That's I consider that a near perfect film. But it's a couple comments here we'll go through. From Dina, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Dina Carver. I think people need to just be themselves, and kids are people too. And sometimes one tree needs more water than the other. No one is under the same influences. Respect the universe and go see Weird Al. Have fun too. She says. That's excellent advice. Um, the so one you touch on something. We're almost out of time here. So we were going to have a whole half of this was going to be about your whole media career, but
Next time.
and all that. But so we'll have to have you back to get into that, your media history. One thing that we touched on there, the elephant in the room, especially for one media. I work in media, and I'm a member of the coastal elite. I never venture far from water except to fly over it, which they have to sedate me for because it's so upsetting to be that far from the coast. So, can you explain to me, as a member of the coastal elite, what is Chicago?
What is Chicago? It's called the Third Coast. It is a city. It's not first. It's not third. It's another number. And we have some baseball teams that are bad and football teams that are bad, and we like to cling to the ancient history of their sports. It's very cold in the spring, believe it or not. Winter is often falsely accused of being cold, but it's the spring that's very cold. We have a beautiful summer, and our lake looks like the ocean, which cannot be overemphasized. So I am not as elite as you are, but I am, I have a little bit of coast that I cling to. And I think that is Chicago, is that we're like, we have a coast too. It's much smaller than yours, but we've got one. So, we love each other. We love our coast. But we also are always mad that our coast is not as coasty as yours.
All right. So, and you have forged a media career away from the great media capitals of the world, and you did it before there was Slack and before there were phones or anything. How did you do this? Was this hard? Uh, what is that like, having a media career in the middle of America or something?
Well, I think
I'm not sure.
something that we didn't even talk about that we'll have to say for another time is that I also was online at a very early age, but it seemed like it was pure because it was like a Tandy 3000 and AOL.com in my parents' kitchen. But I was absolutely talking to pervs, and I just didn't know it. But it was back in the internet era before mainstream social media, so you could kind of. It seemed like pen pals, like electronic pen pals, more than anything else. And I forgot even how we got in touch with each
AOL
other.
chat rooms, and
Yeah,
it would shut down at night. Like
yeah.
it would, like at 11 o'clock. It would shut down for the evening.
They had to put the ocean back over the tubes. And I will say there was a long time where I felt like a nobody living in Chicago, and that I had to live in New York if I wanted to make it. And then I don't know what happened. Maybe I fell in love, or I just got enough work. But something shifted, and then all of a sudden I was like, actually, New York, I love to visit it. It's good to live here. It's nice to live here where things are cheaper and the fires are smaller, and the garbage is a little less stinky. But I think the internet has been pretty good for media folks. But all you have to do is be curious and reach out and talk to people, and that's really like more important than where you live, I think.
Um, if New York and Chicago, and if New York and Los Angeles went to war, which side would Chicago be on?
I think New York, because we are closer in time zone, probably. It'd be a close call.
I
But
think I can make a case to you as a Angelino
hmm,
that because you are more similar to New York, you realize how they have to be stopped more. You see it more clearly,
the
and
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
your your enemy's enemy is your friend here.
Well, it's true. But if you're a Midwest girl and you go to California, you kind of get put in your place. I think sometimes, like, you may realize, like, wow, I should be living underground if I lived in LA, but in Chicago, you might be acceptable in society. So that is a problem. There are a lot of beautiful people in New York, but I think you're allowed to, like, look at Iris Apfel. She was allowed to, like, wear those kooky glasses and all that jewelry, and everyone loved her. But so and that was not LA. So, or unless she did live in LA, and I'm forgetting all this thing. But yeah. Otherwise, we're rooting for Cleveland. We're rooting for Detroit. Like, we got to stick together.
Okay, final question. Final questions we have to ask you. Um, if this is for Professor Zulkey, if this you're speaking to Hollywood here. What are the things that you would require Hollywood to everyone who works in Hollywood, the people we program the entertainment of the world? What are some things about parenting or about children that you would like everyone in Hollywood to you could force everybody to read or to watch something. It can be something, a venerable piece of nonfiction, or just a good movie, and say make a movie like this, and you could
I
choose many as you want.
I would like a version of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, but for boys. And not to say that movie is not for boys. My boys did watch that movie and they really enjoyed it, and it was some food for thought. But I think something like that kind of touches on boys' culture, the deep things they worry about, the superficial things they worry about, caring about their families, their bodies. I would never say that boys are skipped over or underappreciated, but I remember seeing that movie and being like, this is such a deep topic and so interesting and covers so much. And I would like to see something like that, or like Inside Out with a male protagonist. But I'm not a
There
pure
was
pardon?
there was in fact just a Pixar movie about a boy that was released 2 days ago, or
Yes.
3 days ago.
Which my kids did not hear about, which apparently is a huge flop. Which according to, I mean, based on my kids not knowing about it, is the main measure of it. But but I'm not thirsting for that. There, like I said, culture is certainly aimed at boys, but I'm a little tired of superheroes. I don't need this another Superman. Star Wars. I have firmly established that I don't need Star Wars. Star Wars is not for me. But I'm not really worried about boys and
Is
culture, but
is
I would
is
take that.
is is your husband a Star Wars? Where is he?
He is a Star Wars, and he watches like Andor with them, and whatever shows are on. So, I just it's not for me. I don't care for it. I don't need it. And I like to imagine that I'm really, like I'm like a goth teenager who refuses to join the family on a ski trip, and no one is impressed. But I leave the room when they are watching Star Wars just to be like, not everyone likes everything that is for you. And nobody notices, and I go eat in the counter and I watch something on my laptop. So really proving a big point to them.
Okay, final question that we ask here. Your If you were giving advice to a young person, wanting to young Claire coming into media today and wanting to carve out a voice for herself and a niche, what would you say?
I mean, I I made some mistakes, but you can't not make mistakes. I guess, avoid reading the comments as always, but there's something about the pain of it that kind of infuses you at the same time. Like if you're not thinking about who is mad at you or who you've let down, then are you even a creative person? And Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I've like tried and failed or tried and stopped. I think we talked about the possibility of feeding a failed novel into Chat GPT and seeing how that would be finished. I don't want to know. I'd rather not know. I'd rather just let it be the little chunk of, dead wood that's, left behind fertilizing the ground. I'm losing track of this simile, but
It's
yeah,
it.
I think that's the only thing that like I do get worried about, just like for that social media has. I think if you get offline, it's really not that bad. But if you are online too much, you start conflating that with the real world. And so to find that help, I think I wish I knew a little bit earlier on how much I need to get offline sometimes and to get out of the into the real world. But it's a fine line. And if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't even be here. Neither of us would be having this discussion.
Mm.
You wouldn't be Mr. Ankler. I wouldn't be Mrs. Witch. And, helping Substack out because they helped us out. But, it's having friends, continuing these relationships and offering compliments and asking questions and doing favors. Like I stand by that.
Well, this has been a fascinating talk. We didn't even get to our entire history in the blogosphere, back in the golden age of blogging, which is where we first met. But
Can
we
I
will
ask you one question?
depends.
I just want to know, tell me some pop culture thing that your kids are into right now, either movies or music or online. I'm just curious what the kids are into.
My son, like yours, I think, is very into hip hop.
Mm,
He the I took, and like yours, I took him. More astounding than the fact that he went is that I went. I took
mm.
him to a Tyler the Creator concert. Oh,
Wow.
dude, and I'm here and I live to tell. And the so he loves that. We're also the all three, and him and my daughter, we had started watching about 4 years ago because it was looking for appropriate. programming Survivor, and we've become like this crazy Survivor household that we watch. We are constantly watching old seasons because there's 50 old seasons in other countries, and I hadn't watched Survivor since season 2, so I was coming back to it after 40 seasons, and it is very extremely PG rated, but also has it has not just the competition part, but it has, it teaches some lessons about, like, if you want to win Survivor, not having everyone hate you. Yeah, like, yes, you can bully your way through a few levels, but that's going to come back at you, and you got to be a nice person at some point, and things like that. So I never would have guessed that Survivor would be the thing that brings us together, but it really is.
Yeah. Not American Idol. Whitney Pastrick made sure to tell you that that we all agree that Melinda Doolittle was way overrated, and
poor Mindy. Yeah, that's so sad. But
I know, R.I.P. No, she was amazing, but yeah, back in the old days. But that's a good one for sure. I should put that on our list.
Give it a try. The 50th reunion episode. But wait, Evil Witches is this Substack newsletter. If you are a parent, you must subscribe. If you're not a parent, you will still find it hilarious and great advice. And you should subscribe regardless. And we will definitely have you back if you will.
Thank you. Can I plug one more thing? If you guys feel like
please.
listening to my voice more, I don't know why you would, but I also have a podcast called Not Right Now that is about parenting in these times, and I host it with Quinn Emmett from Important, Not Important. So if you like podcasts and you feel like more gabbing, there you go. You can have some of that. But thank you so much, Richard. This was really fun. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. I was terrified, and everyone was really nice. So I'm glad this worked out.
It was great just to talk to you again.
Yes.
After I spoken to you, and to do it and to get to cover all this is terrific. So we'll meet again here soon.
All right. Thanks again, Richard. Talk to you guys. Bye, everyone on Substack. Thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you all for joining us.
Bye.
See you soon.